How many you think I took yesterday? 0. How many I took the day before yesterday? 0. Why? Because nobody needs to reach me by phone. How about your kids and your grandkids? They call my wife. I'm not kidding. She screens my calls. They call my wife. The youngest one is 2 years old. She's not the youngest. She's the youngest that can talk. And she's like, Tido. And my wife knows she wants Sido, Grandpa. So she calls me. She says, Sido. I hear her. I'm downstairs in the basement, on the ground floor, in my office. I go up, and there is Yusra, Bayan's daughter. She's 2 years old. She's on FaceTime, and she's like playing there, and she wants to see Grandpa. And I look at her, and we smile, and we talk a little bit, and then I go. Did she need to call me? No. She called her grandmother. What's the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make is that when I'm focused, I don't want to be interrupted. End of the story. Whatever I'm doing is important. There's nothing on your side that's more important than what's on my side. It might be more important to you, with all due respect to all of you, because Nidal calls me sometimes and I pick his call. Because I respect him dearly and I respect what he's doing. What he doesn't know is that his call is probably one of more than 20 calls that I got in that day, and I passed every single one of them went to voicemail. Is that rude? It's up to you. If you want to be the owner of a company that has 12,000 people in it, or if you want to retire at age 50, or if you want to do anything, then you better learn how to say, no, I don't have time. And if people think you're rude, look, here's something I learned many years ago, and you need to learn it. People's opinion of you is none of your business. What people think of me, it really doesn't bother me. I try my best not to hurt anybody. I try my best not to hurt the feelings of anybody. I want to be nice to everybody, but not at my expense. So let me turn it around and talk about you, because this is about you. You're a student. You have a final coming up in 2 days, and you're cramming. You're trying to really get a grip on the material, and you're falling behind. You have a homework. You have a paper you got to deliver. Does that sound familiar, guys? Does it sound familiar? And your friend Abdullah calls up, and he just wants to chat, or he wants to go out for a cup of coffee. Let's meet up. For what? I'm busy. Now, you say that once, he may accept it. You say that twice, you know what he's going to start saying behind your back? Man, he's so rude. Why? Why rude? Because you're not at his beck and call. You're not responding to his demands on your time. Here's another rule I learned a long time ago that helped me out. I control who comes within 3 feet of me. You know what that means? It means pick your friends. Pick them really careful. You don't need a lot of friends. It's better to have a few good friends that you have a deep relationship with. You know how you know when you have a deep relationship with somebody? I heard it once from Harvey Mackey. He built a $300 million company. And one of his books, it's called Swim with Sharks, came out like 30 years ago. Harvey Mackey says, if you wake up in the middle of the night in a sweat and you need $10,000 bad, and you don't have at least a couple of people you can call on and say, listen, I need $10,000 by the morning. And if that person doesn't say, you want me to bring it up or do you want to pick it up, you're in deep trouble. Are your friends like that? Do you have people that are, I'm not talking about relatives now. I'm bypassing relatives. If you don't have friends that you can count on in times of difficulty, then you need to upgrade. You need to upgrade. You need better friends. You don't have to break your relationship with the others, but you need to have a select few. And you need, I don't care if you have 1,000 friends on Facebook. How many of them really know you? How many of them really care about you? How many of them, if you fell and broke your leg, they'll actually feel your pain? That's what we're talking about. So all of this that I'm saying is to try to bring up one point: focus. You need to learn how to focus. Most of us are distracted every day, every moment. There is a distraction. You sit down to do something, and it's your phone dinging, it's somebody calling you, it's whatever's in the background playing, and you need to change the tune. I don't know what it is, but you're distracted. And then at the end of the day, you wonder why. At the end of the day, you haven't accomplished much at all. This is unacceptable if you are planning to live a life on purpose. That's the bottom line. If you want to live a life on purpose, you need to focus. Now, most of you are saying, I don't know if this agrees with the Sunnah. Okay, I'll give you a hadith, and maybe you'll believe it. After that, you'll believe in what I'm saying. سمعت نبيكم صلى الله عليه صلوا على رسول الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. In this hadith, Rawi says, سمعت نبيكم صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. Listen to what he said. من تشعبت به همومه لا يبالي الله في أي واد هلك. The beginning of the hadith, من جعل الهموم هما واحدا. Anyone who focuses his worries on one single thing. In other words, always try to focus on the one thing that needs focus. من جعل الهموم هما واحدا كفاه الله هموم الدنيا والآخرة. ومن تشعبت به همومه لا يوادي الله في أي واد هلك. In other words, you do not allow yourself to be distracted. Your number one priority every single day would be what time is Dhuhr, what time is Asr, what time is Maghrib, what time is Isha. Wallahi, brothers, I feel the time of Salah coming without an alarm, without anything. I have an internal clock. That's how I know that I'm normal. In Islam, if you feel Maghrib creeping on you, like I would say to my wife, tonight, it happened tonight. It's like I need to pray. I think Maghrib is 7:05. She says, no, it was 7:04. It's, oh, okay, I got to go and pray. So that should be number one. Number two, if your mother is tired, you should be able to know, young men, that your mother needs help without her begging you and saying, why don't you take out the garbage? Why don't you sweep? Why don't you do this? Girls, go wash the dishes. Set the table for dinner. All of this stuff. We have to have some sensitivity. We have to be able to do that. And at the moment, that is the most important thing. Maybe for the whole day, it's not. But at any given moment, you need to know what's important. So here's, in conclusion, here's how you start your day. I'm going to give you a practical step on how to start your day. In the morning, ask yourself one question. Most of you don't have pencils and you're not writing, so you're not going to remember. I'm going to say it anyway, and hopefully you remember. You need to ask yourself one question. If I had time and energy to do one thing, just one thing today, what would it be? So my day would be a perfect day. By doing that thing, whatever it is, I would feel that my day was a great day. All right? To somebody who's sick, it might be to just get to the doctor and get an x-ray or something, find out whether your arm is broken or not. For somebody who's got exams, it might be to just get through this exam and get an A and get it over with. Everybody's number one is different. But you need to wake up and ask yourself, what is the one thing that if I finish today, I'd be in good shape. And you put it down. Then you ask yourself a follow-up question. If I had time for one more thing, after number one is done, if I had time for one more thing, what would that be? And you put that down. You repeat the question 2 or 3 times until you come up with a short list. We're talking about the day now, not the month, not the year, not life. We're talking about just managing your day. Once you decide on 3 or 4 things, what do you do now? What does focus tell us? What do you do now? You have a list, yeah. You start with number 1. What if I caught you working on number 2? I touched on this last time. What if I caught you working on number 2? What happens? Number 2 has become number 1. So I'm going to question you. If I was your life coach, by the way, guys like me, they call them life coaches. And they pay them tons of money to tell them what to do. And this is all they do. They come to you and they say, why are you working on number 2? And you say, well, it had to be done. It showed up. And say, okay, are you done with number 1? No. So this is the new number 1? No, number 1 is number 1. Well, if it's number 1, why are you doing number 2? You see, it sounds stupid, but in reality, that's what you're doing. You just replace number 1 with number 2. And number 2 is the new number 1. And then we wonder why aren't we achieving any level of significant success, any significant level of success? The reason you're not achieving significant level of success is because you're allowing number 2 and 3 to come in front of number 1. And then you wonder why, or how did I miss number 1? Whatever your number 1 is, by the way. This is how, because you allow number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Now, what if number 2 is urgent important, like we were talking about before? A mother who just got a call that her daughter, her son fell and broke his arm, la samahullah, or something like that. You deal with it. That's different. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about normal day, okay? So focus is sunnah for the Prophet ﷺ. It's not something that I'm making up. It just happens to be the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So let's move on. Any questions? Yeah. I'm listening. There is this thing out there that people call multitasking. And to be honest with you, it describes women more than men, of course, because the mother could be running a machine. There was real experiments in the factories of the Bolshevik Russia back in the last century, where they would have women working in a factory with loud noise, and they would take a break and fall asleep on the garment, and then her child would be with her. The child cries or just whimpers a little bit, and she wakes up. Women, Allah Azza wa Jal gave them the ability to be multitaskers. The training I'm giving here is meant to be cross-sectional. So women would have higher ability to manage and multitask than men, okay? However, if they want to succeed, because a lot of women are career women. My wife is a career woman. She worked with me from 93 until we retired. She was my right-hand man, whatever, a woman. And without her, I wouldn't be where I am today, okay? And I've seen how she's able to accomplish so many things at the same time. To this day, what I'm talking about is a cross-section, okay? So I think you understand what I'm saying. So what happens when we focus? Can I have one of those, Amo? I'm thirsty. Can I have one? Can you open it, please? Yeah. So what happens after we focus? When you focus on something, what do you do? Like you put it in front of you and you just stare at it all day long? If you said, I'm going to focus on my studies, translated to practical, everyday activity, what would that be? What does it look like? If I look at you and I say, oh my God, he's focused, or she's focused, what would you be doing? Yeah, it's important. It's in front of you. What are you doing about it? Do you post on Facebook and say, this is important? All right, let me turn the question differently. You wake up one day and you say, you know what? I'm putting on pounds. I need to exercise. My health is important. I need to go out there and work out, blah, 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 blah. So now your top priority now is to get healthy and exercise, right? Okay. So you focus on exercise. What does that mean? before you do the exercise. I'm talking about you start in your head saying, I want to get healthy. So let's stay at that point. Never mind exercise even. You just decided to be healthy. Okay, what do? How much do you know about health? Let me put it that way. Altogether, say, not much. You know why not much? Because you're not physicians, you're not doctors, you're not physical therapists, you're none of those things. You're like me, you're just an average Joe. So what's the first thing you need to do? Go ahead. What do? Research. That's a big word for think about it. You start thinking about it. And you know how you're doing it? Because the moment you say to yourself, I want to get healthy, I want to lose weight, I'm gonna get better. Let me tell you how you know. Every single conversation you have after that is going to be about that. You're going to be talking about nothing but getting healthy. And the person on the other side will say, yeah, me too. And then you say, so what are you going to do? And they say, I don't know. I just was watching this program. And then you say, I just got this book. And then they say, you know, I know this trainer. And then you say, I know that trainer. Next thing you know, you sign up. You see it all, it starts in one place and then it just rolls over. So when we say you need to focus, we don't mean to write it on a piece of paper and stick it on a wall and stare at it every day because people think that that's what it means. To focus simply means you ask yourself, so what do I do now? Before you take action, we're going to get to that. The answer is correct. But you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself, akhi, because before you take action, most people actually do that. They jump to action. You know, they go out there and they start jogging. Next thing you know, they have a heart attack and drop dead. How many times you hear about people who are in good health? They get on the treadmill and then they collapse and die right there. Why? Because they didn't study, they didn't think, they didn't get a physical, they didn't go to a doctor to check and see if they are even healthy to jog and run and so on. Let me share something with you. I'm 68, right? I just became 68. I remember a few years ago, I decided that I want to be a runner. I wanted to run 5K in about 45 minutes. Not bad, it's about 3 miles, 45 minutes, that's not bad for somebody my age. How long do you think it took me to get to that point? I definitely didn't do it the next day because I wouldn't be here today. I was sluggish, I was not healthy. How long do you think it took me to do it? Would you be shocked if I told you in less than 3 weeks I was ready to run 5K and I can repeat it again with the help of Allah Azza wa Jal? But I had to learn how to do it. I had to learn that I needed to go in the first day, I needed to walk. So I would walk from, you know how I did it? There's, you know those phone and electric poles in the street? So I paced myself. I know the distance is 3.2 miles, 1.6 in each way, Abbott Boulevard in Fort Lee. So I would start at one point, and between the one electric pole and the second one, I would walk. Between the second and the third, I would jog, slow pace. When I reached the next one, I would start walking again. So that was the first day. Second day, I would jog 2 and walk 1. Then I would jog 3 and walk 1 until I got to a point where I jogged the entire 3.2 miles in, let's say, 1 hour. So then I started shaving time. Before you know it, I was doing it in about 45 minutes. How did I learn all of that? Research. Sister, who said research? You said research. Research is the easiest thing nowadays. Just be careful, because there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're talking about out there selling you a bill of goods. Make sure that the person you're listening to knows what he or she are talking about. Nowadays, with the social media and YouTube and everything else, wallahi, every time I open my Facebook page, there's somebody trying to teach me something without me asking. So be careful about that. So again, first thing we do, we decide what's important. What's the second thing we do? Come on, guys. By the time we're done, you should be able to rattle these off very quickly, all together. Prioritize them. Prioritize them. So you decide what's important. Then what do? When you prioritize them, what are you trying to why are you prioritizing them? So you can do what? Focus. And when you focus, what do you need to focus for? What's focus for? So you can use your cabeza. So you can think. So you can learn. So you can research. Learning is the food of champions. I'm sorry, sister, you had a question. You raised your hand. You sure? I apologize. Sometimes in my mind, when I'm going, it's hard to stop me. So we need to get the mind working. And now I'm going to give you a huge warning about the mind, this thing we call cabeza. Okay? You see, in the Quran, it has 3 names. In the Quran, the brain has 3 names. Al-Aql, Al-Hijr, Wal-Nuha. Al-Aql, if I say to you, وين عقلك? Where's your aql? You say, right here. Al-Aql comes from the word عقلة. الفلاحين بيعرفوا العقال. عقلة يعقلوا. جاء رجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The man came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and said, Ya Rasulullah, can I leave my camel outside the masjid and go pray and then atawakkal Allah and then come back and it will be there? What did the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم say to him? أعقل وتوكل. He said, tie your camel and then tawakkal ala Allah. In other words, don't just leave the camel there. أعقل. So the word aql indicates to tie something. Okay? To tie something. All right. How about Nuha? إن في ذلك لآيات لأولي النهى. Nuha is one of the names of the brain. نور العقل. But what does it mean? الألباب. نعم. But I'm going to focus on these 3 for now, for a good reason. النهى, from naha yanha, the 3-letter verb in Arabic for the word nuha is naha. And naha means to forbid. So if the mother says to the child, don't play with fire, don't play with the matches, that's called naha. Nahi means to stop somebody from doing something stupid. What does that have to do with the brain? Let's go to the next one. Al-Hijr. That's another name for Al-Aql. It's another name. I'm blanking out on the ayah. Al-Hijr, subhanallah. I'm just blanking out on the exact ayah. Anyway, there is an ayah that refers to the brain as Hijr. And Hijr means quarantine. Al-Hajr wal-Hijr is to quarantine something, to isolate something. Subhanallah. All these names sound passive. And yet we think that our brain is the most active thing. All right, what do these 3 words have in common? What do these 3 words have in common? Yeah. Yes. They all imply control. Let me share with you what Sheikh Sha'rawi says. Sheikh Sha'rawi rahimahullah says, كل عمل ابن آدم منبعه القلب. العقل مطية القلب. We all actions. If you had a pen, I would want you to write this down. All actions emanate from emotion, from the heart, and justified by the mind. You know why, for the ladies, you know why your husband bought a red car? It's not because it has good gas mileage. It's not because Consumer Report says it's the best car. It's because he liked it. He's a sucker. He walked into the dealership and he looked at it and was like, ooh, I love this car. Next thing you know, he bought it. On the way home, he said, oh my God, how am I going to explain to my wife I just spent $50,000 on a car we don't need? My black car is good. Why did I just shell $50,000 on a car? So you come up with a mental explanation. So you go and you say, oh, it has good gas mileage, it was this, it was that. In reality, it was an emotional decision justified logically. In other words, most of us use our brain to justify bad decisions we already made. The real job for the brain is to control our actions, to control our temptations to do stupid things. So the next time one of you guys wants to try something, and I'm going to use a simple example. Somebody passes a cigarette. I'm not going to say something else. Somebody passes a cigarette. Boys do that. Nowadays, even girls. They pass hookah and all of these things. So I say, try that. Your heart says to you, you got to fit in. You want to be like the boys. They're all smoking. So they're going to call me chicken if I don't. I'm using a simple example like smoking. Could be worse than that. And you all know what I mean. Now your brain is supposed to do what? Red light. Think of it as red light, green light. Your heart wants to see green. Your heart is giving you the green light. Do it, do it, do it. Your mind says what? Decision, don't do it. I saw a documentary the other day about a whole bunch of girls hanging out with their friend who never got in trouble in her life. True story. They were hanging out in her room. They were having a sleepover. And that day, one of them managed to get some amphetamines or whatever the heck it is. It's one of those synthetics. And Quaaludes, or God knows, the names change every day. And the girl took it and then collapsed. By the time the medics came, she was dead. And the parents have no clue how that happened. It happened because she's never been in a class like this that basically said, use your brain as a red light that makes you stop from doing stupid things. The number one job for our brain is not to initiate ideas. It's most of the times, the things we do because our heart gives us the green light to do. It's because we like to do them. It's because they feel good. It's because of a million things. We simply justify them logically. Our brain's job is not to sit there and justify your stupid actions. Your brain's job is to stop you from doing them in the first place. If you want to succeed in life, use your brain for what Allah Azza wa Jal created it for. Aql and Nuha and Hijr. It's supposed to stop you, Nuha. It's supposed to quarantine you from the things that you shouldn't be doing. It's supposed to tie you from unleashing your temptations and doing the things that you shouldn't be doing. Back to the beginning. What's the first thing we do? We figure out what? Come on, guys, you should know by now what our values are. And then what do we do with them? We prioritize them. When we prioritize them, what do we figure out? What we need to focus on. Once we focus, what does that mean? What does focus mean? That we think about it. How do you think about it? We learn about it. We learn about it. Why do we need to learn about it? Because we don't know squat. What do you know about health? What do you know about physical therapy? What do you know about exercise? What do you know about anything? Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Quran says, خَلَقَكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. You're born knowing nothing. And you go on your entire life learning. I'm still learning every single day. I spend as much as 7, 8, 9, 10 hours learning new stuff every single day at my age. I have a voracious appetite to learn. Everybody's different. Some of you like finish high school and you feel that you're done. That's it. ختم العلم. أخينا. Some people actually feel that way. I met somebody who said he hasn't read a book in like 40 years. And I'm like, I feel sorry for you. But that's how people are. SubhanAllah. So don't ever forget this. What time is it? Do we have time? I think we're running out of time. All right, so let me end with this. Most of the times, we rely on our mind to tell us what to do. I'm recapping. The truth is, until we feel right, we don't do anything. The last step before you take action is actually an emotional step, not a mental step. I can sell you on the idea of exercise from now until tomorrow, and you still won't get on the treadmill, you won't walk, you won't do a thing. Until one day you feel, for one reason or another, you feel good and you feel that this is what you should be doing, and you'll start doing it on your own. That decision is emotional. It's not mental. Because you have all the mental information that you already need. You probably read books, you attended workshops, you did all of that. That's it, okay? So next time, inshallah, we will talk more about the feeling phase of it, and how does it play an important role between learning and focusing and all of that and taking action. Once you start taking action, that's when your world starts to change. That's what happens on the outside. Right now, we're only talking about what's going on the inside of you. And by the way, a lot of people think they don't need to do anything. There are people walking around, honestly, they are legends in their own mind. Do I need to repeat that? Legends in their own mind. Wallahi, they want the world to just bow and acknowledge their greatness. The truth is, doesn't matter how great you think you are in your head. What's important is what shows up on the outside. The world will judge you based on your actions. You understand what I'm saying? Sayyidina Khalid al-Walid is not great because he said, I'm great. It's because on the day of Yarmouk, he broke 7 swords. 9 swords on the battle of Yarmouk. Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, he was great because he conquered the largest 2 empires of his time within 15 years, the Roman and the Persian Empire. You see what I'm saying? It's their actions. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was an amazing person before he was 40. And when the wahi came, he was ready. So he was great already in his own mind, in his own heart. But it was the da'wah, it was the Quran, it was what he did afterwards in 23 years that made the change in the world. What happened before 40 was good for him. He was a nice guy. Everybody loved Sayyidina Muhammad, Sadiq al-Amin. But what changed the world is what? What happened before 40 or the 23 years after? So we're going to be talking about the 23 years after, but before we do that, we need to talk about what happens prior. This conversation last week and this week and maybe next week is all about what you need to do on the inside. You got to clean the dish before you put anything in it. So now we're just washing with soap. We're making sure that on the inside, you're all ready to receive the good stuff. ماشي؟ طيب جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have a question before you leave? No? Next Saturday, 8 o'clock. Yeah, اليوم نفس الشيء. Yeah, it's okay. تقول له لو يلقطوا 5% من الحكي You did it good. So here's what you do. The reason I postponed it is because a lot of people complain that I was pushing them to do something. So what they do is you make them into individuals okay? You put them on a table and you start separating them into top half and bottom half. Then you take the top half and you separate it Keep separating until you come up with 5 and 6. And those are the ones you do for dinner. Okay? You did like 90% of the work the rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, it's all over. The farms are on the street. It's called Keller Williams Oil.